Hi everybody, this is Pax again. This is the number 3 I think video on DPS, I think. And this one I wanted to cover the champion points. So let's get into that. This there is a tool constellations. There is a tool that helps you make your own. I this what I'm going to explain to you I did on my own, and then I used this to compare, and I was like right on the money. That there was one thing that they tweaked or they wanted to tweak, and I just said no, I don't want to leave mine, but it was very close. So if you don't really want to think about this stuff, or it's above your head, or you just whatever reason, you might want to look at this. I don't know that much about this tool. I just kind of compared it, and then it's still here. But I'm not going to go through this constellation yet. I'm just going to go through these champion points and kind of explain it. So the first thing, and I've said this I think in the last video, you want to look at. So the blue ones, that's going to be any sort of attack, okay, which we're going to spend the most time in there. Red are going to be defensive. I am going to hit those also because you have to think about it. If you're dead or being tied, CC down, tied down, or whatever the case may be, that's going to lower your DPS. If you're not continuously doing damage, depending on your circumstances, that affects DPS. You would think it wouldn't, but it does, okay? If you're dead, you're not doing DPS. So, and then over here, the green is things like regeneration and just the other stuff. So we're going to start right over here on this first one. And so one thing I want to point out on this is the different some of these things are exactly the same in these areas, except it's different because depending on whether you're going to be doing stam base versus magicka base. And I'm going to show you a couple examples right off the bat. So, and it sounds like I'm going to jump around, but I'm going to come back to this, but I want to show you that. So here's one for spell penetration. Okay, this spell penetration is for magicka based, and I'll get into what that is. I think I talked a little bit about penetration before on one of the first videos. I think this is this is actually, I think, the fourth video. But here's the equivalent to the other one. So it's in the third area, and it's piercing. It says physical penetration. So the other one's spell versus physical, but penetration, it's the same. So you don't, if you're stam based or you're melee based, you want to do this one. I'm magical based. I don't want to do this one. I want to do this one over here. So you don't, you don't want to mix the two because it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you mix it, you're going to be thin. You want to be solid in that particular area. There's other examples I'll show you when I hit it, but there's not a ton of it, but you have to look at it if it's stam based versus magicka based. So let's start over here on this one. This increases my heal. Oh, one other thing I want to point out in general, it's not really showing it here. You want to be heavy in a particular area, particularly when you don't have much champion points. Don't thin them out. Focus in an area of what you want to do because that's going to bolster you. That's where somebody's at CP 300 can keep up with somebody that's close to 800, is because they've got the same points in a particular area that the 800 does. So they'll be weak in others, and some things are more important than others. So we'll hit that. So this first one that says healing, you don't need anything there for DPS 0. You're not going to be healing yourself. You're not doing any of that stuff. So you put none in here. So let's come over to Elfborn. Now this one, based on what I told you about this character, see what it says? It says increase your critical damage, right? So when I do get critical damage, I want to get most of it as possible. So right here is roughly 20% of it. Okay. I think this is true. Okay. I'm not 100%. But if you look at one of their last damage, you see here my critical damage is 90%. Where is that coming from? Well, one of the places it's coming from is this champion point right here. Right here, 20% of it. I think this class, a Templar, I think it's 50%, or maybe everybody has 50%. So this would take it up to 70%. That would be, um, and then another place would be, could be my skill here. Here's another 10%. And there's other, there's something that would total up the 90%. So one of the places is right here to get that up. That's when I get critical damage. How much of that critical damage I get to keep? Well, there. This is where it's at. So if you don't do any critical damage, you got 56 points that you just wasted. Okay, so if you're doing a lot of critical damage, this is where you want to bolster that. So come back here, let's come down here, Elemental Expert. So it says increase your flame, frost, shock, and magic damage by 11%. Now, which one of these two, if you're, and let's say you have 200 CP or 300 CP, which one of these two do you think you should put your points in? And you would say, well, Pax, you should put it in this one. And your answer would be correct. Not here, here. Okay, so don't put 10 here and 10 here. Put 20 in here because you want to increase that overall because you're going to do a lot of, I guarantee you, one of those four. Okay, now once you get this up to where each point you put in, the less bang you get for it. I mean, you can see that next point, I go from 11.10 to 11.25, not a whole lot of change, right? But it's a lot different when the points are lower. You're going to get bigger move up. Okay, so until you get this where it makes, then you'll move into other areas. And then we come over here to spell erosion. This is where you're penetrating you're penetrating the boss or enemies shields or protection or whatever they have. And so this one goes up by, I have 3,740 there. Here's another relationship to that. Let's look at my character. Here I have a boon of the lover, so there's 4,489. So those two are going to increase my penetration, and can't remember all the ones, but that's what that total is. What's going to get up in this 13K range, because that's the spell pin. So those are how those are connecting. So let me get back into these champion points, and then the other thing you might want to look at is look at these bonus areas when you move to the rank. Now, I'm already over 120, so I get all these, but sometimes you might be in an area you need to squeeze a little bit more, or maybe it doesn't matter, depending on what those are. And I'm not going to get into those more specific. So let's go to the next area. So over here, I have none of the, let me start at the bottom. So Shattering Blow says increase your damage done to enemies with a damage shield. Oh, I don't use it. I mean, I have a damage shield, but I don't bash them. I don't hit them with my damage shield. So I'm not going to put anything in there. Okay. Physical weapons, you can see it right here. Increase your damage done with light and heavy attacks for two-handed weapons, one-handed or shield, dual-wield bow, as well war form. I don't do any of that, so I'm not putting any points in there. We'll go to this one here. It says Staff Expert. Now this one says increase damage with light and heavy attacks with the Destruction Staff. Okay. Now, if you're weaving a lot, then you're interested in this area. I don't weave a lot for damage. I do, but I don't do a lot of it. But like if you're a Sork or something and you do a lot of weaving, then you're going to want to put more in this one. So now if I come down to Mastered Arms, see I have that damage increased by 17%. Well, there's something I do a lot of with this. And remember I showed you in the last video or this one on my bar 1. The stabby stab, that increases the damage on that one, and I use that a lot. Okay, so let's get back to that. The second one here. So now up in here, these areas, I only got 44 in here, so I'm going to get this. I'm going to get 30, and so for me to go 75, remember, increase your damage done with light and heavy attacks when they're below 20. Well, I'm not doing weaving, and I don't have the points to put in, so I'm not getting that, and it's not that big of a deal. And then the same thing when you roll, dodge, attack, set you, that's not that big a deal. So this is good here. I probably could put some more if I had them, but I don't. Okay, we're going to go on to the next area here. So here you see right here, starting on this side, and I probably won't pronounce it right, Thermatruge, okay? And see what it says, increase your damage done with time effects by 23.4%. So that's going to be things like, actually, technically, it does this too, okay? But it's mostly, I'm focused on the stuff on the back bar, which is going to be this shard, it's going to be this bubble, it's going to be this marching thing, it's going to be my ultimate. All of those things, those area damage is, oops, get over here, is this one right here. That's why there's so many points in here. So let's come down here and increase your critical damage with, see where it says, with stamina abilities. Remember, this one over here was increase my critical damage with magic abilities. Those are identical. The difference is one's stam base versus one's magical base. Okay, so if you're sticking some over here and you're sticking some over here, you need to relook at what you're doing, because you're probably doing something wrong or not as well as you could. You're wasting points. Okay, so let's come here. Piercing. Remember the physical penetration? I talked about that versus over here. Magical, same thing, just one's a little different. And then up here, this one is a common one. This is going to be custom to your character. It says increase your physical, poison, and disease and damage. Now, it's possible that that physical could be tied to my stabby stab. I doubt it, but it doesn't matter because we're out of points, right? You're not unless you're doing poison and disease and that. There's nothing there. So you're loading the boat on. I'm loading the boat on this one. I'm loading the boat on this one because of my stabby stab, and then I talked about these areas. So that right there is these blue ones, and I've used all the points. So let's go over red. I'll try to go over these pretty fast because it's only relation to DPS because you're not falling over dead. There probably should be another video that's not DPS to hit these, but I want to hit them just real quick. So this one is reduce my damage taken against direct attack by 19%. Things, people stabbing me, slapping me around, and of course we like that. Spell resistance, this number is going to be associated to or increase. You can see it in your character here. That's going to be this spell resistance number right here. Okay, and we can I'll talk about this in some other video of when somebody hits you, what does it all go through? How do you defend yourself? But anyway, that particular number here helps increase that number. This one here, critical resistance, there is no boss, at least unless they change it, does critical damage to you. This is only applicable to PvP. So unless you're a PvPer, you don't want to waste any points in here. Same thing here. Unless you're using a bunch of you're a stand base or you use a lot of medium armor, you don't need to put anything here. But what does this number associate with? It's the same as this one with spell, but this is physical. That would be in here, this physical resistance number. Okay. So let me come back to, I think we covered everything in here. Let's go here. So we'll start here. Thick skin reduces your damage done over time effects. That's when people say don't stand the stupid, don't stand the red. Well, if you are, you're going to get reduction of damage. In my case, by 19%. Up here for me, because it says 5 pieces of light armor. This is the physical resistance for me. This is this number right here on physical. That's what increases that area. Okay. Okay, let's get back to this. I'm going to come back to Hardy. Here, elemental ender, this is damage from frost, shock, fire, just about everything, all right? And of course, you want that. I get hit with all that kind of stuff. And now Hardy, I get a lot of people talk about this one. I don't put any in here, and the main reason is you're going to get the defense on these other ones, And there's just not a lot of places that you're going to get poison damage and disease damage. You know, you can stand out of it, you roll out of it, but you're not going to just sit there and take it. So in the way you see my points, don't waste putting any points in there. It's not going to help you because you're not getting damaged by that. Then you're not using it. I mean, look at this one down here. You're always going to get some sort of either frost, shock, magic, some sort of damage. Now up here, it's talk about physical damage, maybe that stabby stab. But remember, you got all the cover, uh, in this physical resistance over here. You're going to have this at all times. This is going to be in certain conditions. So anyway, this is how I load those. You can see it compared up there. We already got over 120. So let's come here. Now this one here, I have none in. I'll read it real quick. This is your, if I have damage shields, I don't care about increasing those. I have damage shields, but it's not that big of a deal on my character. This one here is increased damage from other players. This would be in relation to PvP, player versus player. I'm not doing that with this character. Come down here, increase healing that's received to me. I don't need that at all. And here for my heavy armor that increases my physical. I have one piece of heavy. I'm not putting any points in, so I don't have any in here. Now there is a case that people like to put in here 10 points. They usually pick this one. And the reason they want it is because of this field physician. So what happens is if somebody's dead and they're going to resurrect them, they want to get reduced damage while they're resurrecting. So they'll take 10 points to get this, and they usually put it in here. Now, I don't on my character because I'm a Templar and I already get a speedy res. I get other bonus, so I don't waste any in this area. Okay, so let's hit the green. Let me zoom out again. So you got your damage, you got your defenses. Now we're going in the green. I'll hit these real quick. This one could be good, but I don't do a lot of weaving. So it says when you deal damage with light and heavy attacks, you decrease the enemy's health. But it might be more important on a Sork or something. But I don't weave because I do, but not very much. Come in here. Now this has to do with when you get CC'd down, or they're grabbing you, and I'm trying to break out of something or whatever. So the higher this number, the easier it is to break free. Sometimes it gets to be too easy, so this is probably a little leaning more on beyond how many points you need to be here. But the nice thing about this class and this setup in the green area, I have extra points, so I've got that all the way up here. I'd probably have at least have this at 10 to 15% at least, probably at least 10% reduction. Down here, reduce cost if you're running. I don't have any in there. Reduce the cost of bash. I don't do bash. Remember, I have that remote interrupt. So let's come over here. This here increased my stamina recovery. It's not stand based. Mine's magical based. So if I come in here, magic recovery, yep, got 75 in there. I want that. This up here is when I do heavy attacks, I do restore my magic and all that stuff. So I do want that. Down here regenerates my health. I don't need that. So these points go in here for that. I'm sure there's other bonus up here. You can read those for yourself. It's already over. I think it's 120 is the highest, so it already has that. Coming to the last one. This one here affects your healing. If I'm healing someone, I do the breath of life, but I'm not putting any points in there just to help somebody out for a little moment. Tumbling, this is your cost of your rolling. You see me roll. I do want to recoup the cost, so that's why there's 56 points in there. In here, cost of sneak. I don't sneak around. It doesn't have anything to do with my DPS or how my character is, so I don't have anything in there. And last here is the reduced cost of block. And there's times I block, right? So that's okay. So you can tell in this green area, other than these two, this one too. It's in the main areas of those areas the way I use it for this character, but it's not the heavy. It's not. It's not a big. I still get the treasure hunter. I still get some of these perks, and so it serves me well. So those are the three areas. The champion points. These are the biggest area you want to deal with, and that's going to be your damage, defense, so you can do damage and not, be able to take it. And let's see. I think that's it. I just wanted to cover those, and then I'll go into the next video and kind of try to tie everything in together. So I'll see you in the next video.